Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel and welcome back to a new video. So today I'm going to be sharing with you guys some great budget Xbox 360 games that you guys can pick up for your physical collection. Now personally, I like to collect on a budget if possible, just because game collecting can be kind of expensive sometimes. So usually what I try to do is just get loose discs, but obviously I try to get complete in box if possible. The Xbox 360 has a great library of games, so there's no shortage of games that you can find now at a great price. So I just compiled a list of 10 games here, just of different varieties that you guys can pick up. I try to go with like about $5 or less. And again, these are going to be usually like loose prices or usually on like loose discs that you can get these games for. So we're going to go ahead and get right into the list or go ahead and get right into the games. So the first game I have to show you guys here is Tom Clancy's Ghost Recon Advanced Warfighter. So this is made by Ubisoft. Now this game loose you can get for about like $2 or less. You can find this game on like eBay, eStarland, or you could get it on like Lukey Games. Those are usually good bets to go for if you want to get like loose discs or any game for that matter. So like I said, eStarland and Lukey Games are also a great alternative if you don't want to use eBay. But this, of course, like I said, is usually about like less than $2. But this is just a great tactical squad shooter game, a little bit underrated in my opinion. Obviously, Tom Clancy's huge, and obviously, like, there's a bunch of Tom Clancy games. But I guess I would say this one kind of, like flies under the radar sometimes, or people usually don't think about it all the time because there's other great shooters as well on Xbox 360. But if you're looking for a great budget game, this is definitely one to try and pick up. So that's Tom Clancy's Ghost Recon Advanced Warfighter. And then the second game we have here, this is Dishonored. Now this one I have here is the Game of the Year edition. You can find this one fairly cheap as well, but just Dishonored, the game in general, you can find usually for like less than $2 as well. Obviously the DLC is going to cost you a little bit more, but if you just want to play Dishonored, again, it's great. You can get it under $2. If you don't know what Dishonored is, it's a series now. There's a second game like for newer generation or new generation consoles, but it's like a first person like stealth action adventure game, I guess you could describe it as. Really great. I really love the Dishonored series, and definitely a great game that you can pick up for very cheap on Xbox 360. So that's Dishonored. And then the next game, we have more of a well-known game here as well. So this is Assassin's Creed 2, obviously made by Ubisoft. Now, I guess Assassin's Creed 2 is usually like considered like one of the better of the old games. It's definitely a great Assassin's Creed game, obviously. You can either get the first or the second one for a very good price. This one as well, you can usually find for like under $2. Loose, obviously. But like I said, Assassin's Creed obviously is more well known. But if you don't know what it is, it's kind of like a open sandbox like stealth adventure game. Very fun. Definitely recommend this one, and definitely a great game that you can get for under $2. And then the next game we have here, this is an FPS game. So this is BioShock 2. Obviously, you have the first BioShock, and you also have BioShock Infinite. I feel like this one's kind of like sandwiched in between it. People usually talk about the first one, or they'll talk about Infinite. BioShock 2, I feel like, doesn't get as much love, but this is definitely a great game that you can pick up for usually about around like $4 or less loose. But it's a great game. I believe it's published and made by 2K, if I'm not mistaken. But this one's a little bit different. In the first one, obviously you play as just like a normal person, where in this one you actually play as a Big Daddy, which is kind of like the villain, or they're like antagonist characters within the series itself. But this is definitely a great pickup if you like FPS games and like more horror-based FPS games. And like I said, definitely a great pickup if you're not familiar with it, or if you just want, a great game for, again, very cheap. And then the next one we have here is also an FPS game. So this is Homefront. Again, this game you can get for about like $4 or less loose. This, like I said, this is also an FPS game, and this game is sort of like a what if America lost to North Korea sort of game. So it's sort of like a alternative history sort of game, but a very cool one. Definitely underrated in my opinion. So that's kind of what I put it here on the list. People usually don't talk about it all that much, but it's definitely a great game to pick up if you're looking for like more underrated FPS games on Xbox 360. And then the next game we have here, a little bit of a different genre here, but we have Rockstar's games, table tennis. It's kind of weird to think that Rockstar made a table tennis game, but this is a great one at that. This one you can get for like $4 or less, or around $4, loose disc. But this one's actually very, very fun. You might not think about it in terms of like sports games, but it's actually a great table tennis game. If you like tennis in general, obviously table tennis is very similar in that way. But again, this one's actually pretty underrated. People usually don't talk about this one, but it's definitely a pickup if you like sports game or if you enjoy sports games, and definitely a great game you can get at a lower price on the Xbox 360. And then the next game we have here, we have Red Faction Guerrilla. So this is sort of like a sandbox, open world, third-person shooter game, I guess you could describe it as. But the main feature of this game is that like all the terrain is destructible. This game as well you can get for usually about like $5 or under. Getting in CIB is actually pretty easy as well. I've seen this game at like Goodwills and stuff like that. But I feel like this is pretty underrated as well. Same thing with its sequel, Red Faction Armageddon. That game also is very cheap. But this one, like I said, you can get for about like under $4. I believe it's made by the same studio that made Saints Row, if I'm not mistaken. But it's definitely a great game, definitely underrated, and definitely recommended to get for a cheap price. And then the next game we have here, a little bit more well-known, but this is Mass Effect 2. Obviously made by BioWare, published by EA. This is generally considered, I think, one of the best Mass Effect games, but this is a role-playing game, an action role-playing game, where you kind of play as this like space guy, and you go around in different like galaxies and stuff like that. Very cool game. Obviously, Mass Effect 2 has obviously Mass Effect, the series in whole, has a great following in general, but this is definitely a great game that you can get for about like, I think about like $3 or less usually loose, which is fantastic considering how big this game is. And definitely you get your values worth if you do pick this up. So definitely recommend Mass Effect 2. And then the next game we have here, this is also an FPS game. So this is Crysis 2. Now, Crysis 2 is kind of known for being like a very good looking graphically game. So that was kind of its shtick back in the day, was that it's, again, like a very high graphic game. I guess in terms of like nowadays, it still looks great, obviously, but obviously games have come a long way since then. But this is a great FPS game for sure. And again, one that you can get for very cheap. This one you can usually get for about like $3 loose, but definitely recommend this one if you've never tried it out. So very, very cool FPS game there. And then the very last game we have here, something a little bit different. I believe this game's pretty underrated in my opinion, but this is Kingdoms of Amalur Reckoning. So this has actually been remade for like newer consoles, but of course this is the first version of it. Developed by Big Huge and then published by EA. But again, this is a very fun action RPG game. Like I said, pretty underrated in my opinion, but it had enough of a following, obviously, to get a remaster, but definitely recommend this one. You can usually get this for about like $5 loose. In general, for getting like with the case as well, it's usually not too expensive. I actually picked this game up when GameStop was getting rid of like Xbox 360 games. So they had a lot of deals back in the day when they were getting rid of Xbox 360 games. So that's actually when I picked this one up. Didn't really know much about it, but it's definitely a great game to try out. Much like some of my other games, I picked a lot of these games up when GameStop was actually like getting rid of all their Xbox 360 games. But that is everything that I have in terms of the budget games. Let me know if you guys have played any of these. Let me know if you guys want to see some budget lists in the future. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Thanks for watching.